guys, it's Taylor. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Today I'm here to bring you my October wrap-up. Now, this month I managed to read 9 books, all of which were rated relatively high. I don't think I went below a 4-star, so this was a fantastic reading month for me. And I took part in 2 different readathons. I did the empty Shelfie, spooky Shelfie edition, and then I also took part in Spookathon. So that was 2 different readathons. 2 of these I had started in September but finished in October. I read 9 books, and I'm going to start with the spooky Shelfie TBR that I completed. Well, the bits of it that I completed, and then I will move into Spookathon, and then I will give you my page count and star rating and all that jazzy fun stuff. Let's dive on in. So starting with the 2 books that I had started in September but finished in October. The first one is going to be Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. I ended up buddy reading this with Julie from Pages and Pens. It was very unintentional. I think I had told her that I had picked it up and was planning on reading it, and she was like, I'm reading it, let's buddy read. So we ended up buddy reading, and I hope we get to buddy read the rest of the series. As of right now, I don't know how either of the final 2 books of this trilogy are going to fit into my November or December TBR, but we'll see. Anyway, I gave this a 4.25 out of 5 stars. I loved it. It was so good. I can't wait to read the second one. Second book that I had started in September but finished in October is Scarlet by Marissa Meyer. This is the continuation of the Lunar Chronicles. I can't go too much into this because this is the second book, but it introduced a couple of new characters, one being Scarlet, and I loved her. There's the introduction of Thorn. I love him. There's also Wolf, who I completely adore, and this whole just expansion that has happened from the first book. I love it. I love it so much. And I can't wait to go and read Cress, which is the next book of the series. So I did give this 4.75 out of 5 stars. So next we are getting into the spooky Shelfie books. The challenge for book with a nightmarish concept, and I'm going to use This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab to fill that. Because in this book, every violent crime manifests in a monster. There are 3 different types of monsters. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. This book blew me away because I loved this so much. While the beginning 50 to 100 pages was kind of like putting me to sleep, I ended up finishing it super fast. This is the first book of the Monsters of Verity series. It's a duology, and it follows a young girl by the name of Kate, and her father is a terrible man. And she wants to prove to him that she is worthy of the Harker dynasty, and her growth through this book is probably one of the things that I love the most. And then there is August Flynn, and August is actually a monster. He was born via a violent act, and one of the things that he does is he goes and finds sinners and basically reaps their soul through music. My complete and total heartache for August, I love him so much. He is such a sweet little baby, and he goes through so much pain and so much suffering, and I hate it. So the second challenge that I completed is book with a freakish character, and I went with Hollow City from the Miss Peregrine's trilogy by Ransom Riggs. If you don't know anything about this series, it follows a group of peculiar children. They all have these peculiarities. It picks up at the end of the first book, and they are on a search for another Embrin in order to fix Miss Peregrine, who is this particular group of kids' Embrin. And what an Embrin is, it is kind of like the mother of these peculiar children. She is the one that creates the loop magic where all of these children live, and this is how they live safely from those who are hunting them. This was easily my favorite of the 2 that I have read so far. I have one more, but I found the humor in this book so much more delightful, and just this book in general was so much better to me because I know that the first book was setting up this world and just a giant setup in general, and while there was some action later on, this one was pretty much full of like on the edge of your seat action, and the humor, like I said, was fantastic. So I ended up giving this book 4.25 out of 5 stars. The 5th book that I read this month was Siege and Storm by Lee Bardugo. This is the 2nd installment of the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I loved it. I loved it a whole lot. I was really worried going into this because I had heard that it is kind of like, not really second book slump, but just a slow second book. Considered a slow second book because of the, like, preparation for all this stuff. Not a lot of action, not a whole lot of stuff actually going on because they're like preparing for this big event to happen. I did not find this to be a slow second book at all. I listened to it on audiobook and I absolutely loved it. Just completely immersed myself in this book and devoured it. I loved it. The introduction of the new characters. Nikolai is probably one of my favorite characters, and I can't wait to see how he plays out in the rest of the series. I ended up giving Siege and Storm a 4.75 out of 5 stars. The 6th book that I finished this month was Pretties by Scott Westerfeld. This is a buddy read that I am doing. I had already read Uglies, and then I joined when they were starting Pretties because like I said, I'd previously read Uglies. I enjoyed this. I hated the slang that's in this book. The pretty speak, I hate it. I hate it so much. It's so frustrating, but I understand why it's there. It plays a pretty good part in this. Like I said, that pretty speak is not for me. I do not like it. Like, obviously I read it and I enjoyed this book, but that's just one of the annoying pieces of the book. And I know it's there for a reason, but good lord, it's awful. But I did give this 4.5 out of 5 stars. So the next book I read is the Paranormal Challenge for the Spooky Shelfie, and it was also for my Spookathon. This is where my Spookathon TBR kind of starts. Now this is the only book that I finished for Spookathon, and it filled the prompt for, or it filled the challenge for read a thriller and read a book with a serial killer for Spooky Shelfie. And that is Tokyo Ghoul. Loved this so much. I read it in one sitting. It's relatively short. It is a manga. So like I said, it was relatively short. It was really quick. I had seen the first, I believe this follows the first, at least the first 2 to 3 episodes of the anime. And that's really the reason why I picked this up, because this is the first manga I've ever read. I had no idea really how to train myself to read this. So I thought, why not read something that I know the storyline to, so that if I start to read and it doesn't make sense, I can figure out where I was and fix it. This follows a young man by the name of Ken, and he is a human in college going to school, and he ends up going on a date with this girl named Reese. It's not good. They end up in an accident, and it turns out that the girl he is on a date with is a ghoul. And in this world, ghouls are monsters, obviously. They feed on humans. There are just kind of, I don't want to say like an outbreak of them, but there are some who are considered serial killers. They're binge eaters, so they will go and they will kill multiple people. For that reason, this will fit for a serial killer, because there's a serial killer in this book, and it's Reese. But they end up in an accident, and Reese is killed. Ken is severely injured, and they use Reese's organs, but they do transplants on Ken in order to keep him alive. And now he is half human, half ghoul, because he does have some of the ghoul parts in him. So yeah, it's super cool. It's Ken trying to find his place between the human world and the ghoul world. And I love this so much. It's so dark. It's so gory.